All right, so welcome to Deep Stretch. Class this evening is going to be a full body experience. So we're diving into a philosophical topic that I think is very, very poignant right now and is something that all of us can really find some resonance in. So with that being the case, we're going to get into all of our major muscle groups, all of our major load-bearing joints, and with that being said, all of our major anxiety tension points. So if you know that your hips or your shoulders are pretty sticky, pretty not excited about deeply stretching, some props that'll be helpful. You'll definitely want 2 blocks or something similar. And then if you have a bolster or a cushion or a big pillow, that will definitely make things even more lovely for you. So I'm gonna back up. You might wanna adjust your volume as I get farther away from the microphone, and we will get started in a supine position. So flat on your back. I'll meet you there in just a moment. So for those of you who have taken this class with me before, or if you've ever taken a yin style class anywhere at any time, this is going to be a pretty slow moving, very restful type of practice this evening. So the real goal with yin yoga is to hold postures for an extended period of time, anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Once we start holding postures for more than 5 minutes, we kind of cross into the restorative yoga realm. So we might be towing that line a little bit today. We're going to be holding some postures upwards of 5 minutes. So with that being said, just notice what happens in your mind, in your body, and see if you can really lean into that softening and that shift. So getting started exactly as you are, just taking a moment, maybe noticing what happened today, what happened yesterday, feeling if there's anything in your body or your mind that is still kind of poking or asking for your attention. We often refer to yoga as a 3-part practice. So it doesn't just happen in our bodies, but it also happens energetically with our breath, and it most certainly happens in our minds. So try to bring your awareness to all 3 of those parts of yourself right now. Physically, how do you feel? Mentally, what's going on? And in regards to your breath, can you slow down your inhales and make your exhales feel a little bit more like sighs? Just letting gravity do its thing. And allowing all the parts of yourself to get a little bit closer together. How you feel, how you think, how you breathe. Slow and steady. Now in just a moment, we're going to head into our first official posture for this class. So for some of us, the blocks might come in handy right away. If you're pregnant or if you're healing any back injuries, or if you would like a more restorative experience, a bolster will also be helpful. So our first posture this evening is Supta Baddha Konasana. So if you're already on your back, you might just simply bend your knees, bring the soles of your feet together, let your knees drop out wide to the sides. The first way that I'm going to demo this is with all of the props, and then I'll show you options with fewer and fewer props. So if you have a bolster, it's going to come behind you on your back. Soles of your feet come together, knees open out wide like the covers of a book. Your blocks are going to come either on their mid-level or lowest level underneath your outer thighs, your outer knees, and you'll slowly lower yourself back into that reclined position. Now, if you're not working with a bolster this evening, that is just fine. You're going to slide that bolster, or the one that you don't have, you're not going to have it behind you. Again, you're going to recline onto your back. Knees are wide, soles of the feet together, blocks are going to slide under your knees on their mid or lowest level. If you're not working with blocks this evening, then just find this shape, flat on your back, knees wide, feet together, without the blocks. So whatever option you're taking, just make your way there. As always, using the first full 30 seconds to transition. So recognize what feels good, what feels tight, what feels balanced. And knowing that this is where all the wiggles and all the shifts are supposed to live. So if you need to prop something up, if you need to shift your weight, now is the perfect time to get yourself a little bit more set. And gradually over time, you'll feel your physical body start to soften. Might not be immediate. But as that softness starts to creep in, can you recognize the correlation between physical practice and mental? When your body relaxes, your mind tends to follow suit. There might be that little momentary uptick in your brain activity. So use your breath as that bridge between your body and your mind. Continue to breathe slowly and deeply so that everything can just soften. If you happen to be taking this posture without any props, it might be necessary to give your inner thighs a little break from time to time. So that might mean that the soles of the feet come to the floor so that the knees point up towards the ceiling for about 3 breaths before you return to that knees open posture. Maybe following if your mind has started down a thought trail. Where are you going? And how did those thoughts get there? No judgment. Those thoughts are incredibly natural, normal, and human. But for your next 3 rounds of breath, can you pull your attention back in to the sensation of breathing in deeply and breathing out as slowly as possible. Take a deep breath in, a full breath out. If your eyes are closed, gently blink them open. And no matter if you are using props or not, use your hands to gently bring your inner thighs back together. Soles of the feet connect to the floor. Knees point up towards the ceiling. Very good. Now, if you're resting on a bolster, this might feel a little bit like a trust fall. If you're flat on the ground, this will be a little bit more intuitive, but you're gonna roll onto your left side, reaching your arms up overhead. So you're coming into this little fetal position. Very good. And then nice and slowly start to press yourself up to a comfortable seat. Now, the word comfortable is very subjective here. Comfortable might be a traditional Sukhasana, crisscross applesauce as the kids call it. You can also extend your legs out forward or just slightly bend your knees, whatever is comfortable for you right now. Now, another important facet of yin, this practice, is to really give yourself some time between postures to intuitively feel what you need. So after all of that inner thigh stretching, that slight back bend, just notice if you need to shift a little from side to side, if your neck needs to pop or readjust. If you're feeling anything in your fingers, your wrists, your toes. And then what I'd encourage here, if you're practicing on a hard floor, you're gonna wanna turn yourself towards the long edge of your mat. If you've got carpet or a rug underneath you, that's totally fine. You can keep yourself oriented as you are. But we're gonna head into a Janu Shirshasana variation. So we're gonna bring our hips to the middle of the mat, extend your left leg out to the left, and then bend your right knee, bring that right heel in towards yourself. Now, there are certain variations of this posture where it matters where you put that right heel. This variation does not matter at all. So it might be in very close to your pelvis, your foot might be touching your inner left thigh, it might just be floating out there somewhere. Grab one block and set that block on its highest level outside of your right or your left thigh. Very good. Now this we will adjust as we need to. Just make sure that you have some cushion underneath your left heel. Take a big breath in, look up, reach up, and we're side bending up and over to the left. So as you exhale, you're gonna bend that left elbow, bring that left elbow to your block. Very good. Now you might notice that your right fingers are making this much more intense. So do yourself a favor, bring your right hand to your right hip. Good, and then decide if you need this block in closer, out farther away, or bring another block into the mix to bring it up taller. Very good. Last little pro tip here, use your left hand as a headrest. So ideally, you're feeling a nice stretch through the right rib cage. If you're not feeling that, you might need to adjust where your blocks are. Make sure that your chest isn't rounding over that left leg, but rather I'm a little teapot style. You're simply side bending to the left. Eyes can close, ankles can soften, toes can release. And just let yourself breathe once again. Come back into that 3-part connection. How do you feel? Where is your mind? And how are you breathing? So as a community this week, we've been diving into the topic of satyagraha. Satya means truth, truthfulness, and graha means to hold firm or to grasp. So satyagraha is actually a term coined by Mahatma Gandhi, and it is quite literally the truth to which you cling to, the truth to which you hold firm. So last week when we were talking about vows, I invited you to not just talk about it, but be about it. And it being whatever you are endeavoring your life to be about. So if there's something that's important to you, likely there is a truth behind why that is important. So once again, I invite you to hold firm to your truths, because in this world, in this life, there are so many truths that are flexible. Take a big breath in. Slow breath out. This is a great opportunity to change up the positioning of your block if you'd like. So you might drop it a level lower. You might slide it farther away or closer in. Double check to make sure that your right shoulder isn't dropping forward, but is rolling back. And for our last full minute or so in this side bend, you have the option to stay right here. Likely you're still feeling some things. If you would like to up the intensity, we are going to bring that right arm into the mix here. So take a big breath in, sweep that right bicep alongside your right ear. You could stay here, or you can get really, really fancy. Bend your right elbow, interlace your fingers, and then now you've got a little two-handed head support. If you're not quite sure what's happening with my hands, it's the universal sign for doing a sit-up, except thank God we're not doing sit-ups. Make sure your ankles are still soft, you're not clenching in your jaw or your toes. Very good. Keep breathing. And in these temporary moments of discomfort, when we know that the end is so close, but we're not quite there, those are the moments that I really invite you to ponder. What are your truths? What is it that you hold firm to in this life? How would you identify who you are and how you interact with the world? Deep breath in. Slow breath out. Release that interlace with the fingers. If you have it, reach long through your right arm, and then use that arm as leverage to help bring you all the way back through center. Full 30 seconds. Balance it out. Intuitively move some stuff around. If you've never been very aware of your connective tissue, I invite you to feel what's going on in the balance between the left and right sides of your low back right now. One side's gonna feel pretty loosey-goosey, the other side is gonna feel not as loosey-goosey. And that's simply because we gave that side bend so much time. Simply switching sides as you're ready. Left knee will bend, left heel will come in towards your center, right leg will go out long. And then set up that block outside your right leg. Wonderful. Take a nice big breath in, sweep your fingers up, look up high. And then exhale, side bend over to the right, bending your right elbow. Get yourself set up for success here, and then release that left hand down. Now, you might need the same modifications or variations that you took on the left side, or you might find that it's a very different situation over here. So wherever you feel like you can soften into maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10 on the intensity scale. Relaxing your legs, your hips, your glutes, your face. And just breathe. Allowing the eyes to close might be a physical trigger to help your body relax a little bit more. See if you can feel your belly expand with every inhale. And then everything softens as you exhale. Perhaps even noticing the sounds in the room, the sensations in your legs and your side to help bring you even more into this moment. If you're ready to change up something about this posture, now is a great time. So that might mean that you take a little break, you come up through center, you let that go. It might mean that you just simply lower your prop. Now, not to worry, we still have that upping the ante moment in about a minute or so. So this is just simply an opportunity to get a little bit deeper into that left side stretch before we really just light it on fire. It's very easy sometimes to fall into this yoga trap of not believing that you're doing it correctly because how you look in a posture isn't the same as how others look. Now, especially in yin, how things look matter. It does not matter at all. How it feels is what matters the most. So if you feel something happening in your left side, if you feel maybe something going on in your right hamstrings, you're doing it exactly right, A+. If you'd like to feel exactly the same, stay as you are. If you'd like to feel a little bit more intensity, deep breath in, left fingers sweep up and overhead. Very good. Now you might stay here, or you might create that little interlace of your fingers, little double-handed headrest here. Try to keep that left elbow up towards the ceiling rather than letting it drop in front of your face. I know it's like 10 times harder that way. That's why we're doing it. This is quite literally the easiest way to make 60 seconds feel like an eternity. Just remember that it's practice. I guarantee that you've done harder things than this. So let your ability to sit with this discomfort be practice for the next time a hard thing comes around. You're halfway there. Big breath in. Slow breath out. Keep that rhythm. Breathe in. And breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. Last two. Extend your left fingers long past the crown of your head. Use that arm as a little lever. Bring yourself back through center, and without waiting for my permission, just take what you need. Let everything go from that posture. Wonderful. Now, recreating a shape that we took at the very beginning, we're going to bring the soles of the feet together, knees open up wide, but keep yourself seated upright here. Now, depending on if you are growing a human or if you have anything going on in your low back, folding forward is going to look a little different from person to person. So what I would recommend is having a block just somewhere nearby. You might bring that block in front of your toes so that in a moment as you fold forward, you might bring your forehead to rest on that block. If LOL, that block is like 60 city blocks away from your forehead, you might make that block a little taller so that you have a nice place to rest as you fold forward. Now, if you are currently pregnant, you might need to slide your feet a little bit farther forward to accommodate. If you have any back injuries, you might also find that sliding your feet forward is going to decrease that pressure on your low back. So as we kind of fine tune those things here, there, and everywhere, take a big breath in wherever you are. And exhale, fold over your feet. Ideally, you're feeling a little bit of stretching, or maybe a bit of stretching in your outer hips. There's definitely going to be some sensation in your inner thighs. If neither of those things are true, I would encourage you to change the positioning of your feet, either sliding your feet more forward or sliding your heels in closer to your pelvis. Giving yourself lots of time here to just zone out. Perhaps you've already started to notice things softening even just a little. As we have this conversation, between gravity and our muscles, this compromise starts to emerge. Flexibility, mobility, safely exploring a deeper range of motion. Take a nice deep breath in. A slow breath out. And whether you're using props or not, slowly start to bring yourself back upright. Again, just letting yourself take a moment here to shift, change, rearrange. I think my favorite word to describe this time is wiggle. So just let yourself wiggle. Often your hips or your glutes will need a little bit of mobilizing. Nothing's off limits. And here in just a moment, we're gonna head into a pretty big twist. So what I would encourage is having a block somewhere nearby. You're actually gonna use that block as a pillow. So I would love to demonstrate this posture first so that you can see it from a top view. Now, lefts and rights can get a little complicated here, but just know it's a twist. So if you're not twisting, obviously you need to switch directions. So from a top view, this is what's happening. That block is gonna be nearby. We're gonna do, I think, what I call a little side saddle seat. So basically, you're seated, you're dropping both your knees to the left, for example. So I'm gonna drop my knees over to the left. Then I'm going to reach my left hand back, so I'm in this very casual sort of situation. Now, as I slide my left arm long, I come into a fetal position. And from here, now this is where the twist happens. I'm gonna start to send my left fingers over to the left side of the room. So this is where a top view can be helpful. So here I am, I've extended that left arm long. I'm gonna start sending my left hand to the left side of the room. So this twist is really happening in your mid-back, but you're feeling this posture in the front of your left shoulder, maybe through the left side of your chest. Now, once you get there, you're gonna slide that block underneath the left side of your head as a little pillow. That might take some finagling. And your right hand is gonna be your little kickstand. So if you haven't already, go ahead and start maneuvering your way into that little side saddle. So drop your knees to the left, prop yourself up with your left hand behind you, and then slide into your fetal position. Very, very good. Now, knees might come up just a little bit closer if that's more comfortable on your hip and glutes. Slide your left hand over to the left. Bring a block or a pillow underneath the side of your head. Good, right hand is gonna prop you up. So that right hand is gonna be on the floor just in front of your chest. Very good. Now notice if it feels like you're about to fall over, you might need to reposition your legs by hugging your knees in closer to your chest or sending them a little bit farther away from you. And then as best you can, just let go. One word of advice, as time and gravity open up the front of your left shoulder, think about crawling your left fingers a little farther over to the left. So that doesn't have to happen immediately, but you might find that you get a deeper stretch, you get a further range of motion So just keep that tucked in your back pocket as the intensity of that stretch lessens. Very good. So we're going to call this a modified scorpion variation. Notice if anything in your hips or your low back is tense. And if you can, soften. You might even notice that that right knee travels farther forward than your left knee. If you'd like to deepen the twist, deepen that shoulder opener, press a little bit more firmly into your right fingertips or your right palm, whatever is connected to the floor in front of you. As you press into that right hand, notice that your chest begins to rotate up towards the ceiling and you get more sensation in your left shoulder, your chest, your left arm. Deep breath in. Slow breath out. 2 more. Fill up. Empty. Last one. Fill up your lungs. Exhale. Let that breath go. Remove the block from underneath your head if it's there. Come back into your fetal position by sliding that left arm up overhead. And then gently press yourself back up to a seated posture. Now, my favorite way to change directions here is to simply send your hips over to the opposite side. Drop your knees to the right this time. Make sure that you've got a block handy as a pillow. And then right hand is gonna prop you up. Come into that fetal position on the opposite side. So slide your right arm long. Left hand comes in front of your chest. Slide your right hand over to the right and set your pillow in place. Now, if you're using a cork block as a pillow, we're just going to use air quotes to describe pillow because it totally blows as a soft surface. So if you have like a blanket or an actual pillow somewhere nearby, that might be nicer. But once you get yourself set again, remember the first half minute is really the fine-tuning period. So get your knees where they need to be. Get your left hand where it needs to be. Maybe slide your right hand farther away from your right shoulder. And then do what you can to let everything release. Check back in to make sure that your breathing is still steady. It's just a further reminder that the word yoga means union, to unify. Our goal is to bring the body, the breath, and the mind into a single point of focus, but sometimes 2 or even 3 of those things link up on their own. So notice if your brain has wandered into uncomfortable territory, if you're thinking about things that are stressful, perhaps your breath has also linked up with that phase. If your body is holding tension, perhaps your mind is also in a slight state of clenching. Take a big breath in and a sigh to let everything come back to right now. Last 3 breaths. Deep breath in. Full breath out. Release that block if it's under your head. Coming to that fetal position, right arm slides up overhead, and then one final time, press yourself back up through center. Pausing in a seated posture, just to kind of shift, shimmy, wiggle, one last kind of transitional phase here. So notice how your arms feel, how your shoulders feel, how your chest feels. And then keeping one of your blocks nearby, recline all the way onto your back once again. So preparing for a little back bend. We're going to open up to the fronts of the hips now that the inner thighs, the outer hips have gotten a little bit of attention. So we'll take a supported bridge pose. Perhaps that will become a pontoon pose variation. So bending your knees, soles of the feet connected to the floor, feet are about hip width distance apart. Now hear my voice giving you these instructions, because as soon as your hips lift the floor, you don't want to be moving your head from side to side. So make sure that you can reach your block if you have one. You're going to point your nose straight up towards the ceiling. Take a big breath in, press into your feet, lift your hips off the floor. Good, now keep looking up towards the ceiling. Slide your block on its lowest level underneath your sacrum. That is to say, the lowest portion of your spine. Now, in no way do you want this block in the curve of your low back. You want it firmly supporting your butt cheeks. That is the most direct way of checking to make sure it's in the right place. Now, as you soften and give all of your weight into that block, there shouldn't be any pain. If there is, maybe slide it a little lower, slide it a little higher until you get it just right. Wonderful. And then let your hands rest either on your hips, your belly, or down on the floor. And as we're here for the next several minutes, you might start to transition this bridge pose into a pontoon pose. So pontoon is going to allow you to slowly, one breath at a time, walk your feet forward. So you might actually find yourself with extended legs. Heels can come quite wide if you fully extend the legs. Hips will stay supported on your block. And you might find as you're walking your feet forward over time that there's a point where it feels nice and then all of a sudden it doesn't feel so nice anymore. So use that as a good indicator to custom fit this posture for yourself. Back bends can feel a little strange sometimes because we're asking our muscles to do the exact opposite of what our daily life encourages. Whether you round forward over a keyboard or a steering wheel, everything about bridge pose and pontoon pose invite you to open in those areas where we close. So if your arms are not already maybe extending wide to a T, give that a try. Bring your arms to a T, maybe even flip your palms open towards the ceiling. See if that gives you even more of an opening sensation. Decide if that's for you, and if not, come back to a more comfortable position. Take a deep breath in. Slow breath out. If your legs are extended, very slowly begin to walk your heels back in towards your hips. Good. Just as slowly, begin to press into your feet, lift your hips into the air, slide that block out from underneath you, keep your hips floating, and then one vertebrae at a time, slowly lower down from your mid back to your lower back. As your low back releases into the floor, maybe notice if there's more space there. And one last time, all together, just wiggle. Maybe the knees drop from side to side like windshield wipers. Maybe you take a full body stretch. Anything that you need here to really balance all of the workout. We've tapped into a lot of different body areas. We've moved a lot of connective tissue into some new arrangements. So as you feel called, Shavasana is our final posture. Traditionally, Shavasana is practiced flat on your back, with your legs long, your heels about as wide as your mat, your arms down by your sides. Now, tradition doesn't always accommodate for different bodies. So if resting flat on your back does not feel fantastic, you can always slide a bolster underneath your knees or underneath your spine. You might come into that fetal position that we passed through a few times in practice, or you might even come to a seated posture instead. So just know that if traditional Shavasana flat on your back is not your jam, you still get an A. You still pass, you still get all the gold stars. The point is to put this practice to rest. No matter what that looks like. Feel yourself inching closer to the end of this practice with every breath. And then let every bit of that awareness drift away. Your thoughts can wander. Your breath can resume its organic rhythm. Just rest. Start to take a nice slow breath in. And then let that breath go. Let's do that a few more times. Deep breath in. And slow breath out. Repeating on your own. Bringing your breath back first. Notice if your mind has wandered very far and start to nudge it back to right now. And finally, bringing that third piece back in and start to wake your body back up. Eventually, taking your time, At some point, you'll make your way to a comfortable seated posture. Not rushing. Allowing your palms to come together, thumbs to hover over the center of your chest. Always pausing just long enough to have gratitude for yourself. Your simple existence is an incredible miracle. Extend some of that gratitude to your practice. In the spirit of union, have a little extra gratitude today for how your breath, your body, and your mind have all come together. Remembering to hold firm in your truth. Be kind, stay open-minded. Floating your thumbs to the center of your forehead and bowing to seal our practice. Namaste.